What's going on, guys? This is Josh. Welcome to Trek Explained. Here I drink and do episode summaries and talk about Star Trek in general. Now, without further ado, let me explain something to you. Genesis is the 19th episode of the 7th season of Star Trek The Next Generation. It starts off with Commander William Riker being treated for some injuries in sickbay by nurse Alyssa Ogawa. Apparently, he was chasing around a new tactical officer named Rebecca Smith in the Arboretum and fell in some cactus, because Riker is a smooth pimp. But that conversation fades away, and the camera pans to Dr. Crusher treating Reginald Barclay, claiming he has Tyrellian death syndrome. But the only thing wrong with him is a slight imbalance in his K3 cell count, which he panics about, but Crusher gives him a scan to calm him down, while she takes care of other things. Data then brings in his cat Spot to sickbay. Spot is pregnant and here for a little checkup before the kittens are due. Barclay interrupts and tells Crusher that his capillaries are shrinking. Irritated, Crusher goes to take care of Barclay, while Ogawa takes over for Spot. Barclay does have a minor case of, let me pronounce this right, Urodelian flu. I hope that was right. Most humans are immune to it, but his T-cell is dormant. But Crusher activates it with a synthetic, and he goes about his business. Doo-doo-doo. Riker leaves then too, and Crusher tells him to stay out of the Arboretum. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Crusher goes back to Data, Ogawa, and Spot, and it turns out everything is going along fine for Spot. And, a bit of a surprise, Ogawa is pregnant too. Data offers to help her husband prepare, since Data has been an expectant parent for several weeks now. He needs all the help he can get. Then the opening credits roll. The Enterprise approaches an asteroid field in order to test new photon torpedoes. On the bridge, Worf announces that he has upgraded the targeting systems himself as well. He is quite proud. They begin a test, and one torpedo veers off course. They try to abort and destroy it, but it won't. They also can't lock onto phasers because it's out of range. The Enterprise is too large to navigate through the asteroid field, and Picard says he'll take a shuttlecraft to go deactivate the torpedo properly. Picard has Data go with him, and they leave the bridge. Data takes care of a personal matter first, and asks Barclay to take care of Spot while he's away. Barclay is the only other crew member who Spot seems to like. Barclay agrees. They talk about who the father is, but Data doesn't know. The conversation is interrupted by Picard on the intercom calling Data to the shuttle bay. The shuttle takes off while Worf is on the bridge analyzing what went wrong with the torpedo. Riker orders him to take a break. Worf heads to 10 forward and is eating a lot of delicious Klingon food. Troi shows up and asks for caviar to eat with Worf. She was in the mood for something salty. I bet she was. Worf belches. Troi says he's excused. They talk about the guidance system on the torpedo failing. Troi suggests he get some rest, and he says, "You're right," and slams his octopus tentacle on the table and leaves. Worf's now in his quarters and tearing his place apart, like his mattress, tapestries, everything. What is he trying to do? Build a nest? Now in engineering, Barclay, Riker, and the Forge talk about some engineering issues. They're going to run a full diagnostic, which includes shutting down some power systems. Barclay is full of energy. Can't sit still. The Forge leaves Riker in order to help him out. The next scene is on the bridge, with Troi too cold and Worf too hot. Troi keeps raising the temperature, but Worf keeps lowering it. Troi raises it once more and then leaves to go take a bath. The following scene is in a Jefferies tube. Side note, Jefferies tubes are little corridors where you can crawl into and check power systems and stuff like that. That's about the size of an office building HVAC system. Anyway, something acidic is messing with the power system. The Forge takes a nap in the corridor while Barclay enthusiastically gets to work on fixing things. Now on the bridge, Starfleet is calling Riker and asking about the process of the weapons testing. Riker blanks out, but eventually tells Starfleet we haven't finished yet. And now there's a scene in Troi's quarters. She's taking a bath in her uniform. Worf shows up and bites her on the cheek, saying he needs to be near her. Next is a sickbay scene. Troi and Worf are there. Crusher tells Ogawa that there may be a viral outbreak. Ogawa runs tests while Crusher goes to check on Worf. Crusher checks on Worf and sees a growth on his neck. She asks to see it, and he spits acid from his mouth onto her face. She reels back and collapses in pain while Worf escapes sickbay. In the main conference room, Ogawa reports on Crusher. She'll be fine eventually, but not for a while. Barclay tells Riker that Worf is spraying the venom all over the ship. Riker mentions how he's been having trouble concentrating himself. LaForge enters and asks Riker some questions like raising the security alert level. Riker blanks out but agrees with LaForge and tells him to take care of it. Everyone leaves and Riker tries to send a message to Starfleet Command, but he completely blanks on how to do it. And that's how he earned his name, Slackjaw Riker. Next scene is Data and Picard on the shuttlecraft, heading back to the Enterprise after their little mission to deal with the torpedo. The Enterprise is not where it should be, but they find it on sensors and proceed there. The Enterprise is adrift, and they begin the manual docking procedure since the automatic systems are down. After exiting the shuttlecraft on the docking bay, they realize shit be fucked up. No power anywhere, and equipment thrown about. They need to go to the bridge to find out what happened. As they make their way through the corridors, they hear animal growls and other noises. They find a shedded skin, similar to a snake skin, but it was from a humanoid. Gross. They continue down the corridor, and they find they are near Troy's quarters. They enter and find her in the bathtub, but she's an amphibian, not full-on salamander like Paris and Janeway from Threshold, but heading that way. They note that she's been injured. Seems like a Klingon bite mark with Klingon DNA in it. They leave her and head to the bridge. On the bridge, they find one helmsman who is dead. They continue around, and Picard sees some large spiderwebs on Riker's chair. Data is able to bring up sensors and sees where all the people are. They hear a sound from Picard's ready room, and a proto-human Riker is trying to break into the fish tank to eat Livingston the lionfish. Riker attacks Picard, and Data phasers him. Riker goes like, whoa, and falls to the couch. They tranquilize him to make sure he stays asleep for a few hours. Data analyzes Riker's DNA and figures out it's a synthetic T-cell that is causing the crew to de-evolve. What? So this is Crusher's fault? Not that they know it yet. Data informs Picard that he's also been infected by the virus. In about 12 hours, he'll start to show the signs. He'll probably become a lemur or a pygmy marmoset. Picard's look is like, well, shit. They don't know how to reverse the process yet, and the main computer is offline. But Data's computer in his quarters is independent and should still function properly for the task. They go to Data's quarters and hear kittens mewing, but no sign of Spot. Why isn't Spot caring for them? Then there's a low growl, and they see an iguana with a collar. I guess that's Spot. They figure out that there are usually extra levels of biological security in a mother's womb to protect any babies from being affected. Data agrees, and they think they could develop a cure using Ogawa's body chemistry. Right then, a plasma vent fails, and they head to engineering to fix it. Picard walks further into engineering and sees Spider Barclay. He's scared as shit, but Data comes to help while Barclay runs away. They talk about that briefly, then Picard has some fear. I've got a bad feeling about this. They opt to leave engineering. In sickbay, Ogawa is a proto-human too, just like Riker. Her baby is fine though. They can develop a cure with her, fluids. Then there's a knocking at the door. It's Klingon. Worf has come. It becomes apparent because he smells Troy in sickbay that he is there to commence mating. Picard suggests duplicating Troy's pheromones and drawing Worf somewhere else while Data works on the cure. Picard leaves sickbay and begins drawing Worf away with the scent. Picard traps himself in a turbolift, but closes the door so Worf can't reach him. Picard then crawls up through the roof of the turbolift and begins crawling through a Jeffries tube. Worf spits on him from above, somehow, and Picard runs to a different direction. Data continues his work in sickbay. Picard keeps running through the Jeffries tubes, and Worf is chasing him. Picard grabs a panel and places it on the ground and stands on it, pulls out a live wire and electrocutes the floor and thus Worf until Worf passes out. In sickbay, Ogawa is looking much more human. The cure is working. Data says he'll release it into the air and should cure the crew. Picard sounds scared over the intercom, and Data asks if he's okay. He yells, "He's fine! He's fine!" And to just proceed, he talks to Worf quietly about hoping that he's a new man when he wakes up. Next scene, Data has succeeded. Crusher determines it was her fault, but Barclay thinks it's his. They named the syndrome that affected the crew after him, Barclay's Protomorphosis Syndrome. He leaves, and then Crusher talks to Troy about how Barclay was a spider, and then he had a disease named after him. Troy says she'd better clear her calendar. Ha! For the counseling sessions. We get a closing shot of the Enterprise, and that's the end of the episode. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for watching Trek Explained. If you liked today's video, please drop a like and subscribe so you get updates on new videos. See you next time on Trek Explained.